having a working strategy is not enough. Thousands of people have that particular strategy that you are using, yet they fail. According to the survey done many years ago, 99% traders are not successful, which means only 1% traders are successful. Now, how can you be at the top? The simple solution to this is having an edge. This can help you to outperform others and become successful. In this video, I'll show you a very simple strategy that can be your edge. Whenever you see this strategy play in the market, it means it is either going to sell or buy, and it have 90% winning rate. Have you asked yourself a question? Why most of these successful traders have only one strategy? It is because they believe in simplicity. Having a complex strategy is void. In this video, I'll show you a simple strategy that can be your edge in the market. And whenever you see this edge play, you enter the market with confidence. Take note, I am not doing this video to sell a course or to attract mentees. I don't sell course. Everything I do in this channel is for traders to learn and make money. It is completely free. All you have to do is to click the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and like this video so you can get notified whenever I make a new video like this. Without further ado, let's jump in. So this simple strategy is called trend line break and trend line bounce. So don't underestimate this simple strategy. I know many of you may have used this simple strategy, but you think it fails, or one or two things makes you to lose hope in this strategy. But in this video, I'm going to explain everything you need to start trading like a pro using this simple edge. So to start with, what is a trend line? A trend line is a line drawn on a chart that helps to identify key levels and the market trend by connecting series of highs or lows. In an uptrend, you draw a trend line by connecting higher low, but in a downtrend, you draw a trend line by collecting lower high, because you want to trade with the trend. So you have to connect higher low in uptrend and lower high in downtrend. Take note, a valid trend line must have 3 touches, not 2. Some people will deceive you that a trend line must have 2 touches, but a trend line that have 2 touches is still a line, not a trend line. If you identify a trend line in the market with 2 touches, it is not a trend line yet. It is a line. This simple strategy, you can use it in any type of market, be it commodity, cryptocurrency, forex, or any type of market at all. So now let's see how to draw a valid trend line in the market. Now this is XAU/USD on 1-day time frame. I'll show you how to draw and find a valid trend line in the market. Not just a valid trend line, but a strong trend line. Now this is XAU/USD. And as you can see, the overall trend is uptrend. As you can see here, we have a touch on this trend line. We have a touch again. We have a touch again here. We have a touch again, and we have a touch again. How many are there now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This means this is a valid trend line, not just a valid trend line, also a strong trend line. And as you can see, this is a higher time frame, showing us that this trend line is very strong. Some people will draw trend lines like this. Yeah, some people draw trend lines like this. Do not get me wrong, this can be a trend line, but for me, this is just a line. This is just a line, because the first thing you have to understand before drawing a trend line is the overall trend. The overall trend on this higher time frame is uptrend. And I think why I won't consider this line as a trend line is we don't have any valid 3 touches. Remember, a valid trend line must have up to 3 touches. Here we have only 2 touches. If you have another 3 touch here or wherever, I will see now I have a valid trend line. Don't forget that trend lines must have more than or equals to 3 touches. Any line in the market that have 2 touch is just a line, not a trend line. Okay, so now this is XAUUSD, and as you can see how I draw the trend line, we have more than 3 touches. Now this is a valid trend line. If you come down to lower time frame, like 4 hours time frame, you will see the touches clearly. Here we have the touch. Here again, we have the touch here, and we have the touch here. So if you scroll to the right again, you will see the clear touches here. And take note of one thing: anytime there is a touch, you see a very clear move. So any trend line that is valid must push the price up or to continue in the trend. Okay, so don't just find any line in the market and call it trend line. Not all lines are trend line. Okay, now let's go to USD JPY to see if we can spot valid trend line in USD JPY. Now this is USD JPY on 4 hours time frame. Now we are going to draw a trend line, but pay close attention here. First, we have uptrend, we have a third here, we have another third here, and we have another third here. Do not mind this, we have a break here. I'm going to teach you how to trade trend line break. Okay, so just focus on learning how to draw a valid trend line. So don't look here, don't mind this. This is a trend line break, and there is a very simple strategy how to trade trend line break. I will still talk about it in this video. So now we are still learning how to draw a valid trend line. Okay, so now as you can see, we have 3 touches in this market. This is a valid trend line, not just a valid trend line, but also a strong trend line because the touches are more than 2. That's their 3. Okay, so remember, if the touches are more than 3, it means the trend line is more stronger. The higher the touch, the more stronger the trend line. This is on 4 hours time frame. Now let me show you how to draw trend line on our time frame. But before you do that, some people draw their trend lines like this by connecting this higher high, and higher high. Yes, anyway, this is a good trend line in the market. At least you can say this is a channel. Okay, but the question and the problem here is you don't want to trade against the trend. Okay, trading in line with the trend is the most important thing in trading. You can draw a trend line like this in uptrend, and whenever the price comes to this trend line, you sell. But it is too risky, and you can call it an edge. You cannot call it an edge because you are trading against the trend. You get it now? But if you can find a trend line in the market that is like this, you can still say, okay, let me trade it and take the risk. But remember, this is not acceptable most of the times. Okay, now let's see how to trade trend line in lower time frame, or how to draw trend lines in lower time frame. First, let's go to 30 minutes time frame. Here on 30 minutes time frame, you can see we have a touch here, we have a touch here, and we have a touch here. And as you can see here, this is just a small downtrend. Okay, now you can see that this is a valid trend line because this did not hold yet. It is still struggling to hold. Okay, so if I go to 15 minutes time frame, you will see it clearly. This is still struggling to hold. So if we have a comeback here, if this trend line hold it to this price, you say, okay, now we have valid 3 touches. I mean, this is a touch though. Yeah, this is a touch, but you can't see if it's head or if it's broke. Remember, a trend line, a valid trend line, must hold 3 times. Now we have to wait for this to come down before we call it a valid trend line. Okay, so as you can see, this is 15 minutes time frame. You can draw trend line on any time frame. Hope you understand how to draw trend line in any time frame. If you have any question, drop it in the comment box. Always focus on finding valid and strong trend lines in the market. Remember, a valid and strong trend line must have at least 3 touches. It doesn't matter if it is in a lower time frame or higher time frame, but if you find a valid trend line on a higher time frame, it can give you a high probability setup. Now, what is a trend line bounce? A trend line bounce is when a price of an asset like cryptocurrency, commodity, forex, or whatever retraces back to this line and bounces off or continues this trend. Whenever this happens in uptrend, it means buyers are still in control. But when it happens in downtrend, it means sellers are still in control. Now, what's a trend line break? A trend line break is when the trend line becomes too weak to hold this price. This means the price of an asset can now break through the trend line and reverses its trend. Now, whenever you see this in uptrend, it means buyers have lost their momentum and sellers are now in control. But whenever you see this in downtrend, it means sellers have lost their power and buyers have gained more power. Now, how can you use this to trade and make money in the market? If you want to trade trend line bounce, always focus on a higher time frame like 4 hours, 1 day, and 1 week time frame. Now, let's see example on how to find buy or sell opportunity using trend line bounce. But before you do that, always remember that if you want to trade trend line bounce, then make use of higher time frames. Let's go. But don't forget to subscribe and turn the notification bell for more videos like this. Now first, here is how to trade trend line bounce. First, I told you earlier that if you want to trade trend line bounce, you must make use of higher time frames, because trend lines on lower time frames don't hold most of the time. But if you can find a valid and strong trend line with more than 2, that is 3 or more touches in higher time frame, you can trade it. That is, you can trade the trend line bounce. Okay, so here's a valid trend line that we found on gold. Now, to trade trend line bounce is quite simple. If you find this trend line on 1 day time frame, you can simply go to 1 hour time frame to trade trend line bounce. As you can see here, when we had a pullback from here, now we had money star here, and touching this trend line, after touching this trend line, immediately it bounced up and touched this resistance. So to trade trend line bounce, all you have to do is to wait for the price to come back to the trend line, then buy. When it comes back to the trend line, buy. And if it comes back to the trend line again, buy, depending on the trend of the market. But as you can see, this is clear uptrend on a higher time frame. So whenever it comes to the trend line, just wait for a signal. Wait for a signal like morning star, in inside bar, bullish pattern, or whatever signal or whatever candlestick signal you have. So you buy. So here you can see we have a pullback to this trend line and a bounce. If you scroll again, see we have a valid trend line, a valid touch in this trend line. Okay, a valid touch in this trend line and up. Okay, so here all you have to do is to wait for signal. Here we have a touch in the market. It looks like a break, but if you go to a higher time frame like 4 hours time frame, you see this is just a rejection, not a break. That's why you have to do your top down analysis as well. Next time I'll be teaching you guys how to do top down analysis. First, if you go to 4 hours time frame, you see all that are just rejection. So this means the price will push up massively. Anytime you see a lot of rejection in the market like this, just be ready for a massive move. Okay, so don't just make use of 1 hour time frame and not just make use of any one time frame. Okay, so if you check 1 hour time frame, also check 4 hours time frame, and also check 1 day time frame, so you can understand everything that happened at the trend line. So just don't focus on one time frame if you want to trade trend line. Okay, so if you go to 4 hours time frame, example, if you go to 4 hours time frame, it looks like a trend line break. It looks like it broke it. But if you go to 4 hours time frame, you see this is just a rejection. This is just a rejection. That's why you have to be patient with the market. You have to be patient in the market. Okay, so to trade trend line bounce, first wait for the price to come back to the trend line, then wait for signal or check other time frame. Because if you're making use of 1 hour time frame, also check 4 hours time frame. If you're making use of 4 hours time frame, also check 1 day time frame. Likewise, if you're making use of 15 minutes time frame, also check 30 minutes or 1 hour time frame. Now, how can you trade with trend line break? Always remember that trading with trend line break means the trend is now weak, so you can now sell or buy in direction of the new trend. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to trade trend line break, whether it is in 15 minutes time frame, 5 minutes time frame, 1 hour time frame, or whatever. This means that trend line break works on any time frame, be it lower time frame or higher time frame. But remember this, if you want to trade trend line break in a lower time frame, employ other confluence like support and resistance levels or other things or other strategy to use. Now I'm going to show you how to trade trend line break in XAUSD 15 minutes time frame and 1 hour time frame. Enjoy. So remember, trend line breaks means that the trend line is less strong or refuses to hold the price. As you can see, this is a valid uptrend. This is 4 hours time frame. This is a valid uptrend, and this is a strong trend line withdrawal. Okay, so now as you can see here, we had a break here. So what you're gonna do is anytime you have a break in a trend line, just wait for a pullback. If we can go to 1 hour time frame, as you can see it here, we had a break and we have a test. this retest did not touch the trend line, but it must not touch the trend line. Most of them will touch the trend line, but most of them won't. So how do you find a trend line that will break and touch the trend line? First, you have to make use of a higher time frame, like 4 hours time frame. Remember, we draw the trend line on higher time frame. So now, as you can see here, we had a break, but the retest didn't touch this trend line. Remember this chart pattern. So I'm going to make use of a simple chart pattern to show you how to capitalize from this simple setup. Okay, so here's a simple chart pattern that you can memorize. If you have a pull up here, and now a simple pullback, now a pull up again and a pullback. If you have a pull up here, this is simply head and neck shoulder. Okay, so this is neck, this is head, and this is another neck. Okay, so most times this chart pattern occur if we have a trend line break. If you have a trend line break, this chart pattern occur, and as you can see here, it occurred here. First, here is it touched here and go up and touch again. Now went up and creates a neck almost of the same height with this. This is that head and neck that I showed you guys. So most of these trend line break may not touch the trend line. Always pay attention to the support or resistance that is near it, so that we can start selling or start buying. Now let's see another example of trend line break. Now this is 15 minutes time frame. As you can see, you can draw trend line from here to here to here. Okay, now we have how many touches here? We have many touches here. This is a small time frame, so we can't really identify it. If you go to 5 minutes time frame, you can see all of it. Okay, so how many touches? We have more than 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 4 touches. Okay, so if you go back to 15 minutes time frame, you can see this is a correct this is a correct trend line break. So we have a trend line break here. Now a retest, please see it clearly. We have a break here and a retest. Now after the retest, we have what? Selling. I think you saw this and just put your shorts here, you could have make insert profits. Okay, so now remember, it must have trade value touch. So once it break, wait for the test. Once it break, wait for the test and start selling in line with the new current trend. Before we close this video, let me show you a trade I took on this XAUSD using this trend line break. Okay, it is simple, and we have to move to our trading view to see how I took this trade on trend line break. So here is the trade I took on Friday. This is 7RR, that's the 7 reasons to the word. So now how did I took this trade with trade line break? So first, I came to a 4 hours time frame, and I identified this resistance here. This is a correct resistance. As you can see, it's here the price here, here the price, here the price. When the price was coming up, I know the buyers got momentum after hitting this trend line, so they started pushing up immediately. So I was afraid of selling it here because the buyers have high momentum. So what did I do? I came to 15 minutes time frame. So I spotted this trend line. So all I did was to wait to know if the sellers here can push this price to break this trend line. Okay, so I waited till the sellers broke this and I had a retest. That's when I placed my sell immediately after the retest, and my stop loss was a little bit above it. My first TP was here and my OTP was here, and as you can see, I took my first TP and it increased almost to my entry and started selling again. So that's how to use resistance and trend line break to make massive trade in markets. Don't forget to drop your question in the comment box and smash the subscribe button for more trading guides like this. Don't forget, I don't sell courses. All I do here is free. So subscribe so you can get notified whenever a video like this drops. Always remember that no strategy works 100% in the market. So if you want to trade with confidence, have an edge and use risk management, proper risk management. So having this edge doesn't mean you ignore your risk management. Employ risk management and I assure you success is yours. Don't forget, I'm not doing this video to sell courses or whatever. I'm doing this video completely for free. All you have to do is to click the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you can get notified anytime I drop new videos like this. For now, goodbye, good luck. I remain JPY Emperor, Jimberije. Goodbye.